like the World Federalist Association, the Gradualist Way to World Peace, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I got older, I began actually learning who was running these movements and what these people really wanted, and what they at least what they were willing to come up with in public about.
Mm.
And I began to realize that I did not want an army of faceless bureaucrats run by robber barons to be ruling my life.
Right. I totally agree. I want to ask you if where if we continue this, if we look at this and think about it and try to kind of see where all this is going in future years, do you think that they will be able to pull it off this time? How far will it go before it eventually collapses? If that is the case, what do you think?
Well, one of the things they've been drumming for 200 years now is the inevitability of a global government, and it's being fed to us on a daily basis. I mean, Star Trek, the TV show Star Trek. There was the Federation. The Earth has one government. The inevitability of there being a one government is one of the primary things that they've been pushing, and so they know that even if this month's version of it doesn't happen, so sooner or later it will happen. And most of the liberals I know are convinced that sooner or later there will be a single global government, and are resigned to it being probably less than ideal, but better than what we have now. And I find this an attitude that's pervasive on the left, and somewhat pervasive on the right. A lot of the folks on the right are convinced that there will be a global government if they don't do something right now.
Right. I mean, but could we have a global government that actually is good and actually works for the peace of humanity? I mean, do you think that ever is going to be a possibility?
I think it is a possibility. I think it's a rather dim possibility. I think the likelihood is pretty slim.
Mm-hmm.
We here in the U.S. we lucked out by having some very smart, well-educated guys find themselves in a position to have a clean slate and start over with a government that attempted to address all the ills of every government they were ever familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
The likelihood of the global government being drafted by people like that is pretty slim. And if you look at what's in the pipeline, one of the major pieces in the pipeline is the Earth Charter. And again, most people have never heard of the Earth Charter. The Earth Charter was called for in Agenda 21. Agenda 21 was signed in 1992, and the Earth Charter was released for signature, I believe, in 2000 or 2001. So it took them almost a decade to hammer out the Earth Charter,
right.
And it is a very flimsy framework. It's only about 3 or 5 pages long. It is a framework to construct a framework around. I mean, it is really minimal.
Right.
And at this point, I don't believe any nations have signed on to the Earth Charter, but more than 5,000 NGOs, non-governmental organizations, have signed on.
Mm-hmm.
And quite a number of the branches of the bureaucracy of the UN have signed on to it. Mm-hmm. So it is a grassroots movement that is rolling forward, and it has such carefully constructed language that it means almost nothing, which means that at some point when they start taking these broad, vague generalities and encoding them into law, that these laws can be anything the law writers want them to be.
So do you think could it be stopped, or will they just keep on pushing until they have it? What do you think?
I have I've been duped into buying into the inevitability of world government also.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an extremely good chance that a single global government will come about. The real question is how long will it take? If it happens anytime soon, I'm thinking a dozen different things at once, and all crashing into my head.
Right.
We have all these individual sovereignties, and we have had individual sovereignties for a while now, and they are pretty solid. They seem at least pretty solid at this point. The age of the nation state seems to be in its glory days. We may continue to have nation states for hundreds of years.
Right.
But you look back 2,000 years ago, and we had city-states.
Right.
Rome was an empire that spanned most of the then known world, and yet it was just one town that ate up all of its neighbors.
Right.
We went from the age of city-states to the age of nation-states, and one can see that down the road things will change. And whether it takes the collapse of the first world to bring it about or not is something else again.
Right. But I see that the nation state is kind of a stepping stone, so to speak, in the process. I guess that you were alluding to here. That these is basically being done by the same men who did it 2,000 years ago. I mean, the same men in the same kind of positions, and they have their ideas of how the world and society should be run and so forth. And again, this seems to be inevitable on one level. I guess we could look back to some of the mythological record in order to see that, okay, potentially they lived in a very one world ruling kind of society back then, but that seems to have been collapsed at some point also, and we're going in these cycles over and over again. I don't know what you think.
I think there's a very definitely a cyclical nature to human government, because what makes humans human doesn't change, and so there are only a handful of ways that government can be constructed that will stand any sort of test of time. And as long as there is wealth, the wealthy will run the government. You look at Rome. The primary of the Roman Empire was the wealthy landholding class. The government of Rome was designed to satisfy the needs of the landholders. As long as it satisfied the needs of landholders, it cranked along. It could have infinite corruption, but as long as the needs of the landholders were met, the government kept working. It was only when the landholding class got wiped out by invading barbarians that the government dissolved.
Well, yeah, it's definitely something worth thinking about, and we'll. And
that's an important piece of the watermelon agenda is to dissolve the landowning class.
Yeah.
If they do succeed in dissolving landholding, if they do succeed in saying that the earth is too precious to allow any individuals to control pieces of it, and for ownership of, if they abolish ownership of land, that's it. The civilization we live in is in the tank.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that seems to be one again. As we've been talking about here, one agenda there connected with the environmentalist movement is to, in some way, control the earth and make sure then that is not being misused by anyone. And the only way to do that, right, is to actually take the land from the people.
Exactly. From the early 1970s on, it has been a cornerstone of the United Nations to abolish human control, individual control of Earth and resources, and put them into a central governing body.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that is what is happening right now. And I mean, in regards to, I guess we could return to that question, if this can be stopped and so forth. And one thing that I'm also thinking about is, should it be stopped? I mean, in a way, maybe this is the way that society should. Maybe this is the way that things do actually evolve. They build up themselves to the giant mountain that actually collapse on its own under its own weight eventually. But during those times, so to speak, we can experience a small period of time where things are fairly harmonious, and we could have a good life. I don't know. Maybe that's not maybe a good idea. I don't know. What do you think about that, Jerry?
Well, there's a number of areas I'm thinking about. First of all, individual freedom is based on individual wealth, and individual wealth is based on land ownership. If you consider individuals important, then you have to believe in the individual possession of wealth and property. If you do not consider individual freedom important, then and indeed look at a collectivist viewpoint that what's good for all humanity will trickle down to being good for the individual.
Right.
Then you support that all the great wealth of humanity should be owned collectively by humanity and doled out to individuals as needed.
Mm-hmm.
This was the great siren call of communism, which has proved to be a dismal failure.
Exactly.
And now we have eco-collectivism, which is just waiting for its turn to prove to be a dismal failure.
Exactly. Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, we'll keep track of the madness, that's for sure, and try to highlight and inform as well as we can along the way here, and that's why we're thankful for people like you, Jerry, who do the homework and study up on these things and help to contribute a lot of important information about this. So with that, I want to thank you very much for coming on the program. It's been a pleasure having you back, Jerry.
Well, thank you. I always love talking about this kind of stuff because it's where I live and it's who I am, and it's talking about me. What's better than talking about me?
Right, exactly. Well, and also this is an important thing, and I guess you're also saying that this is not just a fad to dive into a little bit for a while, but this is important subjects, and this is the life, as it were. This is your life and my life and many other people's life too. They're immersed in the information and want to figure out what the heck is going on. First and foremost, because it's important, but it's also very interesting, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like as you said, I have been interested in this since 1958, and researching it since 1964, and writing about it since 1978.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's a long time. Before we round things up here, though, I do want to mention again that Jerry will be attending the conference in England, Liverpool, the 3rd and 4th of May, beyond-knowledge.co.uk will give you more information about that. And Jerry, why don't you round things up the program here by letting us know your website again and some of the material you have on there for us.
Okay, I am Jerry E. Smith, Jerry with a J, Jerry, middle initial E. That stands for Elwood. As the Bruce Brothers put it, I'm on a mission from God. Smith. So my website is jerryesmith.com. There you will find a section on each of my books that includes an overview of the book, the table of contents, reviews of the book, articles, breaking news stories, the bibliography, so you can get a feel for what the book is about and whether you're interested. There's also an archive of articles I've written, a book of my poetry, a biographical section with more information on me, and a section on Adventures Unlimited Press, who is my publisher, which